When you stare at yourself in the mirror, do you really see a person? In fact, your body only has a mere 30 trillion human cells, but it hosts up to 38 trillion bacteria. It can be said that at most, only half of you are human, and the other half are all microorganisms. What's more serious is that these microorganisms have over 10 million genes, which is 500 times more than your human genes. So it's really hard to say who is controlling whom. Don't think this is an exaggeration. In fact, from the moment you are born, you are no longer alone. Originally, you were in a sterile state in your mother's womb, but as soon as delivery begins, the feast of bacteria immediately unfolds. If you are a natural-born baby, when passing through the birth canal, you will be covered in the mother's birth canal and intestinal flora. In order to prepare this gift for you, your mother will take the initiative to change the vaginal flora in the late stage of pregnancy, allowing beneficial bacteria such as lactobacilli to dominate and protect you. This group of bacteria will first occupy your body's territory, train your immune system, learn to distinguish between friend and foe, and establish tolerance to the environment. But if you are a baby born by cesarean section, you will lose this group of old probiotics that humans have chosen over hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. Accompanying you will be the air from the operating room, the skin of medical staff, and unfamiliar microbial communities in the hospital environment, which have nothing to do with the microorganisms in the mother's vagina. This will also double your risk of developing immune-related diseases such as asthma and allergies in the future. But either way, we are no longer here from the moment we are born. It is a lonely human individual, but a small symbiote armed to the teeth by microorganisms. Even if you zoom in to 2 billion years ago, you will still find that we are inseparable from bacteria. Our ancestors cell-ate a bacterium back then, allowing it to live within the structure of the cell and become tiny power plant mitochondria that provide us with energy. From then on, eukaryotic life suddenly emerged and multicellular life was born one after another. In other words, every cell in your body has inherited that ancient agreement. The reason why you are you is, in a sense, thanks to the bacterial invasion 2 billion years ago. Perhaps seeing this, you might ask, with so many bacteria lingering in my body, aren't I afraid of any accidents? After all, the concept we have always accepted since childhood is that bacteria are pathogens, and we should wash our hands with soap, disinfect with alcohol, and use antibiotics to kill bacteria. Don't worry, do you also need to do a deep cleaning after kissing your partner? It is estimated that a hot kiss can transfer 1 billion bacteria from one mouth to another. But the carnival is over, your intestines inside. Microorganisms will thoroughly clean up the area within a day, removing most of the stray bacteria brought by the other party. Although there may be occasional bad guys lurking, they are still in the minority. In fact, among the tens of thousands of microorganisms living in our bodies, only over 1,400 can treat diseases, accounting for less than 5%. But it is precisely these thousands of black sheep that cause about 1/3 of human deaths worldwide. But don't be afraid, the remaining 95% of the good people can serve you very well, even forming invisible organs, helping to do many jobs that human cells can't do. Speaking of digestion, you and I can only produce 20 types of digestive enzymes on our own, but the gut microbiota can produce up to 10,000 types. It can even be said that a large part of the food you eat is actually fed to bacteria, and the feces they decompose become our nutrition. It is estimated that 10% to 15% of your daily energy is given to you by these microbial communities. Not only that, gut microbiota is also a powerful small chemical factory. It can synthesize nutrients that our cells cannot produce on their own, such as the KB vitamins and some miraculous metabolites with anti-inflammatory effects. They fill the gaps in our physiological functions and allow more food resources to be utilized effectively. Not to mention that up to 90% of serotonin in your body is produced through the joint operation of gut, microbiota, and intestinal wall cells, which firmly control your emotions, appetite, and even behavior through the vagus nerve or blood channels. If one day you suddenly get upset with your airway, it may be because your gut buddies are secretly giving orders, and even your dietary preferences may be forced by certain bacteria. Some Tengjin would secretly send letters to lure you into indulging in sweet treats when you were short of sugar, so that they could expand their power. It may sound a bit unfair, but most of the time, this kind of kidnapping is not malicious. After all, only if you live well can the military group live better. Of course, not all microorganisms are absolute good neighbors. They are more like signing a peace treaty with us, as long as one adheres to their duties and maintains balance. We live in peace and even benefit from each other. But once the microecology is imbalanced, problems arise. Some old and honest bacteria in the resident microbiota may take advantage of the situation and become opportunistic pathogens. A typical example is the difficulty of contracting bacteria. Normally, it is suppressed by other bacterial strains and does nothing. But when antibiotics sweep away all other bacteria, it can turn over and become the leader. Therefore, hand washing causes enteritis. We all understand that antibiotics can be considered miracle drugs, bringing countless medical miracles, but they are also like nuclear weapons, indiscriminately plundering the world of bacteria. Both good and bad bacteria are blown up together. With just a few rounds of treatment, some important military branches may become extinct, and you will lose important defense lines time and time again. These impacts may accumulate, resulting in each generation passing on fewer microorganisms than the previous generation, which may also be the reason why modern children are less resistant to exercise. What's even more terrifying is that bacteria have incredible adaptability. They can mutate every 20 minutes, and once they accidentally mutate and possess drug resistance genes, they can resist. Under the guidance of antibiotics, they survive and spread wildly, and also transmit resistance to other strains through microbial social networks. The consequence of this is that when humans develop a new antibiotic, they often only have a very short window of victory, and then more resistant strains will make a comeback. Today, this microarms race is becoming increasingly intense, with some bacteria gaining resistance to multiple or almost all commonly used antibiotics, known as superbugs. Every year, 700,000 people die from drug-resistant infections, and as more antibiotics become ineffective, this number continues to soar. Nowadays, bacteria in the human body have developed resistance to 2/3 of the antibiotics we use. From this trend, it seems that the day when they develop resistance to all antibiotics will soon come, and we will really be in big trouble then. In this era of steel, cement, and disinfectant, we always want to detach ourselves from everything and escape the entanglement with microorganisms. However, the fact is that we are not isolated islands, and we do not have absolute control. Without the undoubtedly synergistic effect of microorganisms, it is also impossible to simply use antibacterial and disinfection methods to guide their rational use of antibiotics and maintain ecological balance in the body. While protecting our own and others' health, it also preserves a place for our microbial partners to live. After all, microorganisms have laid the foundation for the world in their 4-billion-year evolutionary history, and we only account for one of their final life. If it weren't for the nourishment of this invisible microsoil, how could we stand on the high ground of civilization today? In this grand symbiotic evolution, is the boundary between microorganisms marked by the dissecting knife of scientists, or is it our self-proclaimed dominant line?